Добрый день, дорогие друзья,
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues, dear participants of our annual forum, Composites Without Borders. Since we are using an online forum for the very first time and we have a large amount of participants from Russia and abroad, I would like to say also good morning and good evening. We will be talking about the development of new materials industry, including, and we will have very interesting activities, starting with three panel sessions. We would like to discuss three key questions on these sessions. We will talk about global technological trends and role of composites, driving industries of development of the composites market in Russia. And we will have another panel discussion on science and education startups as the ground basis for technological leadership of Russia in composites. Last year, we focused primarily on polymer materials. This year, we would like to add composites and metals. We destroyed borders by inviting international speakers and CEOs. My name is Alexander Tunin. I'm the General Director of Humatex from Rosatom. Today is my pleasure to act as your moderator of the first plenary session. Who are on our speakers list? Alexei Likhachov, General Director of Rosatom. Viktor Yevtukhov, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade of Russia. Anatoly Chubais, General Director of the Rosnano Managing Company. Sergei Morozov, Governor of the Ulyanovsk region. Alexei Rachmanov, General Director of the United Shipbuilding Corporation. Sergei Kravchenko, President of Boeing Russia and CIS. Alexei Borovkov, Deputy Principal for Prospective Projects, Peter the Great, St. Petersburg Polytechnic University. Alexander Mazhuga, Chancellor of Mendeleev University of Chemical Technology of Russia, and Dan Pickler, General Director of Carp Consult. And Andrei Repich, Chief Economist of WebRF. Since we have a very tight agenda today, I would really like our speakers to stick to 9 minutes time in order to have enough time at the end of our plenary session to proceed to a Q&A session. Don't forget that you can ask your question using the comment box under the video streaming window. And let's talk about global trends. According to HCE, we talk about healthcare, transport systems, IT, biotechnologies, energy efficiency, and new materials. By the way, new materials play an important role in every of above-mentioned industries. Since their characteristics are unique, they allow us to create smart, intelligent, energy-efficient products in every field of a human's life. And we will talk about polymer composites and metals in modern industries, taking as examples leading Russian and foreign projects. And we'll talk about the government role. I would like to ask Alexei Likhachov from Rosatom. This year, your company celebrated its 75th anniversary and set a goal to diversify this state-owned corporation activity by 2023, with 30% of Rosatom earnings should be attributed to modern technologies. There was an agreement signed with the government of Russia. What is the development of this agreement? What are the key trends you highlight while developing the strategy of Rosatom, and what is the place of new materials in Rosatom's strategy? Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Indeed, a new materials topic is of paramount importance for Rosatom, one of the key subjects. And we can see an analogy with this legendary first atomic project guaranteeing the security and sovereignty of Russia. Back in 1940s, scientists, technologies faced an unknown challenge. They had to create a piece of equipment working with a certain level of temperature that was unknown back then, with certain pressure that was unknown. Quite quickly, all problems have been solved. And why I see the connection between that? When we're talking about our main activity, nuclear energy development and green energy uh, balance of the future, we need to solve certain problems related to materials that are fundamental. This is what I see in a nutshell. Uh, Talking seriously, we will apply a step-by-step approach. We are working under new technological and political conditions, and we need to guarantee our leadership in our main technological field. Rosatom is one of the well-known players in the global nuclear family. We are number one in terms of uranium enrichment. We are number one in terms of international projects portfolio. We are number one in modern technologies. We are top three in terms of commercial competences in nuclear fields, and we are a unique company, a unique corporation globally, management the entire life cycle of nuclear technology, of a nuclear product, and we manage it in-house. However, we face technological challenges. Some of them are granted by the government. Uh, they ask us to expand our competences. I would like to mention the Northern Sea route and nuclear icebreakers. On the other hand, the market itself triggers us to find new competences, including wind generators, power energy accumulation, healthcare equipment manufacturing, and their use in diagnostics and treatment of oncology diseases first and foremost. I don't have enough time to list all the challenges. I would like to say that now we face problems and challenges as important as those 75 years back. And we need to have skills, manpower, and competences to solve them. This year, regardless of the pandemic, rebooted and updated our strategy. We passed all the procedures, including public hearings and survey committee hearings. Uh, the fact that we expanded our mission allows us to say that not only nuclear technologies, but also new green technologies should serve the humanity. We have traditional goals, expand our presence on the conventional nuclear market, expanding of our portfolio of cutting-edge nuclear products in Russia and globally. And the third part is the optimization, cutting cost and improvement efficiency. Those were our three traditional strategic goals. And the fourth one that has been just added is an accelerated uh, technological development. We need to be ranked top 5 in terms of new competences. And talking about carbon-based materials, they take a major place in achieving these goals. We will specify this dimension, but in my introductory remarks, I would like to quickly elaborate on the organization of this work. More than 1 year ago, we signed a road map with the government on the development of new materials and substances. This is a mini national project. We have our curator, Mr. Borisov, and we have steering committee, and we have the client, aka the coordinator of the program. It's us, Adam. So polymer materials, additive technologies, and new natural and artificially created materials. We cannot do all this alone. We consider it is to be all Russian activity, and we bring on board as many new materials developers as possible, as many consumers or final clients as possible to develop this or that dimension. Under current conditions, there are several issues of in terms of funding, but we don't wait for federal money. We invest our money in order not to stand still, but proceed to R&D and production. For instance, carbon fiber is about to be carbon fiber project is about to be finalized and will be ready to launch normally in 2021. Stock items are producing. Another idea was born using our road map. And I'm talking about the creation of a unified information resource where all three counterparts can elaborate, can talk, can create alliances. And by three parts, I mean developers, industrial companies that have already necessary production technologies on in place, and consumers, clients. Our main emphasis is put on military production companies because this goal is related to the goal set by the president. He created this goal of 50% diversification, including new technology in military industry by 2025. We work with Mr. Garbov's company personally as the head of its company. Sometimes he is acting as a scientific supervisor, and we create large federal platform expert councils. WebRF became our partner a couple of months ago with Mr. Shuvalov, who reached an agreement. Thank you, by the way, very much for providing us with your management experience and experience in the field of economics. And wrapping up my presentation, I would like to highlight that new materials in a whole and carbon-based materials specifically are of paramount importance. Why? First, we can increase earnings, we can increase sales in new high-tech markets. And by 2030, we need to grow exponentially our presence. Second moment, the use of these technologies and competences to solve industry-specific objectives. And by that, I mean promotion of nuclear technologies in Russia and specifically abroad. With no new materials, we wouldn't be able to develop and let's again maintain our leadership in this field. And thirdly, we are responsible not only for the development of the state-owned corporation, but we are also responsible, as it was from August 1940, for the well-being of the entire industry in Russia. And we are equal among equal partners. We are ready to take new knowledges from scientific institutes. We are ready to be part of value chain with existing or future manufacturers. We are ready to satisfy customers' demand and find the answers to the questions persisting right now in Russia in terms of new materials. Thank you very much. And today we have Daniel Pichler from Carpo Consult. Mr. Pichler has been working for 35 years. AXA, Tau, AXA, Prepreka, SKM, and many other projects in his portfolio. Daniel is speaking from Florida. Thank you very much. We know that it's 4 a.m. Good morning, if I may, Daniel. You've been working a lot on composites marking. You are a true expert. How efficient composites are as a part of a global trend? What is their role on the market, and what will be their future
Good
role
morning,
on the
Alexander. Good
market?
morning, everyone. And I'm very happy to join you today in these extraordinary times. Talking about the global market for carbon fiber and advanced composites, and all composites, in fact, we've had great growth over the last 10 years, uninterrupted growth of 10 or 12% per year. But then in the spring of this year, we have the COVID-19 problem. And but when we think about the demand for carbon fiber, let's think about the mega trends that are driving our economies: urbanization and globalization and the shift in economic power, demographics and aging population, environmental concerns and the scarcity of resources, and of course, technological breakthroughs. And when we think about these mega trends, and where composites are used in transportation, air and autos, in sporting goods and recreation, in industrial applications for its many benefits, in infrastructure, in construction, the reason composites are used, including advanced composites and carbon fiber composites, is for lightweighting, is for its strength, its corrosion resistance, the fact that the materials are flexible and durable. And all those things continue to drive the market. And apart from commercial aviation, there is actually a good market for composites and advanced composites continuing today, even in these COVID times. In terms of aerospace applications, yes, very few people are traveling today. There are restrictions in many places and quarantines in place. And Airbus and Boeing have dramatically reduced their production levels. And the recovery of this industry is going to take some time. It's going to take 3 or 4 years. And aerospace is certainly an important market in composites and in carbon fiber composites. In carbon fiber composites, taking up about 20% of the demand, and more than that in value. But the rest of the markets, the automotive applications, the wind turbines, for instance, wind turbines are having a record year this year in terms of installations and the use of carbon fiber. Sporting goods and recreation goods, people are social distancing, staying at home, and using their time differently. And it's very difficult to even buy new sporting goods today because the market is full. Pressure vessels for compressed natural gas and hydrogen vehicles are continuing to grow. So all of these other applications continue to do well. So when we look at the composites industry, and in particular the carbon fiber composites industry, yes, 2020 is not, for the first time in 10 years, not expected to see growth. And we're going to have a flat year or maybe a slight contraction. But next year, the growth will come, and certainly by 2022, again, we will see good double-digit demand again for carbon fiber composites. And this is confirmed by, for instance, Boeing's outlook that was published just a couple of weeks ago, that their outlook is not so much reduced over the next 10 years versus their outlook 1 year ago. So certainly regional markets and individual countries can see differences, but the main point is the future of composites and carbon fiber composites is indeed still very, very bright.
Удержаться и не задать еще один вопрос. В
I
вашей карьере
really want to ask you one question. I remember that you have been working for 3.5 years in Russia, right? Do you remember this time? What were your impressions? And what do you see in the future of Russian composite market?
Дэниел?
Daniel, do you copy us?
Yes. I do, of course, remember the 3.5 years working in Moscow with the colleagues there very fondly. It is, of course, very hard to work as an expat. You're away from home and family and friends, and you take the assignments are sometimes difficult to do. Sometimes it's difficult for your partner or your career or children in school or whatever, but you get over all those things. Personally, I thought I had a great experience working with the colleagues in Moscow, working with other technical expats also. So, and the expats helped both technically and commercially the business with its efforts to develop more quickly maybe than without experienced people being on the team, and also to help bridge international barriers. And I think we did all those things and enjoyed doing it very much. And I think the success that Umatex has today, Umatex's products match the standard grade products that are in the world for carbon fiber and composites, covering 80% of the applications out there. And it's a great thing the Umatex guys have done in a short period of time.
Спасибо, Дэниел. Но я бы здесь сказал, конечно, не только...
Thank you. Daniel, not only Humatex, in Russia we have many major players in the field on composites and composite products, and are quite successful in terms of their promotion, not only in Russia, but also abroad. Around 1% of all composite products globally are made in Russia. Wind energy and fuels are important triggers of demand, and we have a very good R&D activity. We manufacture equipment, spare parts, but we still lag behind in certain areas, including education. And my next question goes to the Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade. What's an optimal model of PPP? What is the role of the government in the development of composites for us to be competitive against major players in Europe, US, and in China? This is a very good question. The government should play a substantial and comprehensive role. This is a short answer. Yes, our Russian segment of the international market of composite materials accounts for 1% of an overall international market only. But we have some positive news. We are growing every day, and money-wise, we grow 9% annually. And we are growing faster than Japan, China, and Germany, but their market shares are much larger, of course. But taking into account monetary and non-monetary support measures that are being taken, and considering the advancements from several companies, we can bridge the gap between us and the leaders, and we can compete with them. As for the measures that are used, first, the financial support. We proceed to subventions of scientific and R&D works. We had two relative decrees, an updated one. Two important mechanisms are SPEAK and SPEAK 2.0. SPEAK is a special investment contract. And we picked 20 technologies that will be subject to SPEAK contracts.
Investment projects and investment support is more than 6 billion rubles. Of course, there more compensations are provided to the industry, especially for scientific works and on production of investment products. You probably know that the regulation already applied, not only to receive money and to receive the result of intellectual activities, but it also should be commercialized. We have very good results of implementation of such projects. Of course, I will not mention all of that because we are limited in time. But a couple of examples, couple of cases. System of external reinforcement by SKM company under budget subsidizing. And another good example is the first in Russia manufacturing of polymeric and composite balloons of high pressure vessels. The glass plastic plant, which is a subject of a program which allowed to manufacture products which is of high interest, including abroad. The first supplies were to Azerbaijan. Everybody knows the company Vestas Rus, blades for generators, wind generators. We know that the wind generations are ranked second after the aviation in terms of composites application. And of course, the furnace installation is another interesting project. This is what we relied on, and this is what we are talking with Lukoil, the glass plastic, optic plastic piping with Lukoil. They work in implementation of such piping, and oil and gas interested, highly interested in this. And of course, the potential of our aviation. If we actively, and we will, increase the production of Russian aircrafts, the product which will be of high demand in our industry. Rosseti, Rosgidro companies apply or also use composites in their activities. Regarding non-financial support measures, I would like to expand on that because to our point of view, they are probably more important than the financial measures. I have to note that to provide the massive serial production and wide implementation of composites, we pay much attention to implementation of regulatory basis. In 2018, we worked on regulation of development and application of composites in all sectors of our economy. This work is carried out actively not only on the federal level, but also in regions, in addition to the programs of implementation and introducing developed by our ministry, Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Energy. 55 constituent entities of the Russian Federation took part in this project, and the civil sector of economy also was part of our project. And construction industry, of course, is one of the greatest consumers of composites. We are working on the inclusion of this list of certification, obligatory list of certification, federal law number 82. We believe that this measure will allow us to significantly decrease the number of low quality and fake products on domestic markets, providing wider opportunities for the goods of fair national Russian manufacturers of composite materials. In addition to that, this year, Ministry of Industry and Trade of Russia, in order to attract investment, made amendments to the catalog of service and goods provision for municipal needs. We included a big number of articles in this list within the mechanism of the decree of the government of the Russian Federation. Together with the Rosatom and other companies, we work on formation of the national technical programs of the full cycle. And also I would like to expand that on Tuesday in Tula region, the first stage of scientific and research and development center was opened in Tula. It took place on Tuesday. It's great. We work jointly with the colleagues from Tula region, from the government of the region, and other colleagues. We plan that this center will become one of the key factors for development. And summarizing my presentation, taking into account the current measures of support, I believe that for all the community, there are good conditions for developing current production sites and build new ones. I would like to also focus on the fact that impede active introduction of composites in our everyday life. One of them, which was already mentioned, is the problem which we have to solve together: lack of necessary practice of procurement activities of full cycle by the companies with government participants. I believe that this is one of the potential drivers of growth in this sphere. And taking that into account, I believe that it's reasonable under the roadmap of technologies and materials, together with Rosatom, we have to introduce the best practices adopted from our foreign colleagues. And I believe that it's our most promising and most developed, advanced companies can become a very good platform, a very good example for implementation of this area.
Виктор Леонидович,
Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you very much. It's great news about Composite Valley, because a lot of efforts and time was spent on this important element of the roadmap in the sphere of chemistry, low-tonnage chemistry. I believe it's a huge step forward. In addition, the complex program, which you mentioned, provides for investment with dozens of advanced technologies in the sphere of composites, which will provide part of the basis. Of course, not everything for the decades to come in the nearest future. Of course, there are clusters of support. Speaking about faster rates of the development, the key issue is the supply chain is the cell. What is your attitude to the stimulating public companies to the purchasing of these materials in order to overcome this conservatism by the designers and chief engineers, some direct economic interests which are an impediment of the volumes of consumption of composites? Two great examples of success, the gas motor transport and wind energy, have already provided an impetus to that. But what do you think about the application of advanced materials? Of course, if we have the good balance of price and quality, can this market be scaled up quickly? I briefly mentioned that at the end of my presentation. Every year, we address all the participants to examine these mechanisms. Of course, we cannot force the companies with public participants to be more active to use that. You are correct that now today federal legislation has some certain limits, but these limits cannot make the companies purchase Russian products when they procure materials for their own needs. But this mechanism was implemented, including in composites sphere. But I would like to emphasize once again that attention and understanding to this industry, understanding of the prospects of development, will provide the necessary impetus to the development of this area if we talk about the public sector participation. Thank you, Dmitry. We will talk about the life cycle today in details because one of the speakers will expand on this topic, I hope. One of the first institutions of development for more than 10 years, which paid attention to composites and started actively dealing with them, is Rosnano. Then wind energy, solar energy programs started, and these programs implementation is impossible without advanced materials. Anatoly, could you please share with us that 10 years ago you relied on composites? What do you think about the role of domestic industry today and tomorrow? Maybe you have some Russian and foreign practices and best examples, and maybe some breakthrough projects which you see today, which will give a serious impetus to Russia and to composite development in the next decades. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the idea of the conference. It's the 8th forum, and every next forum is becoming more and more interesting, more and more productive. It's great. Thank you very much. I have a presentation, but taking into account the discussion, I would probably ask the organizers to turn my presentation off. I will just speak on behalf of myself, because we have the audience which is not numerous, but it is the audience of experts. Why is it so important? Why the standards are so important? Some people say that I was crazy 10 years ago. What do you want from this? Another components for the ballistic missiles, will produce them, okay. There are always superstitions that if we talk about materials, and materials is something that we work on. We are not Microsoft, we work with materials. I agree with those experts who think that among all the trends on materials, basic materials, construction materials, structure materials, not unique, super expensive materials. I'm not talking about that. I mean basic materials, construction materials with the volumes of millions and millions pounds a year. If we take a look at this, I believe that composites is topic number one. There is nothing comparable in terms of influence of the material globally. There are no analogs. And from the space, they go down to the aviation, then they descend to transportation, from transportation to energy sector and construction. It's growth of massive application. I believe it's a massive trend and very significant one. When I listen to Daniel Pichler, an expert who knows this industry like nobody else, he mentioned the Boeing forecast. The figures did not change. For me, it's very important. You understand the coronavirus impact, oil price impact globally, the economic crisis, which is the total crisis. And the Boeing forecast review tells that composite trends are the same. For me, it's a very important indicator that even such global pandemics, oil price, and other crises did not change this trend. This trend will stay here. It will be a priority. This is a direct answer to your question, why it's so important for me. I would not expand on our achievements. I would rather speak about problems and about suggestions. If we talk about in this sphere, problems in this sphere, in Russia in particular, it's very classical. Market pull, technology push. From the high modular fiber, I would not dwell on this topic because the expert will tell about that. We understand the significance, problems, and see sanctions. If we combine all that, we understand the level of importance. Rosatom instructed Leonid Nalidov to build a plant on fiber production, and it was brilliantly performed. It was a great success. It was a strategic achievement for the country as a whole. And the next technological step, one of the next technological steps towards the high modular fiber is from the side of the technology, from the side of the market. The market is small. Russian market is very small. And this is our biggest problem globally. Victor, maybe I'm wrong. Please correct me. I mean, you said that the largest market is still the aviation, the aircraft engineering. And I had information that wind energy is ranked first. Maybe I'm mistaken here. I believe that you agree with me that the rates of growth of composite consumption in wind energy are higher than the growth rates of consumption of composites in aviation. With all respect to Sergei Kravchenko, who will probably comment on my speech, I believe the growth here is faster. For Russia, it's very significant. Airspace application, special application, transport. There are also some breakthroughs in transport sector. We are proud that Ministry of Industry and Trade and the United Corporation in St. Petersburg at the Sredny Nevsky machine building plant, the shipbuilding plant, the first in Russia passenger vessel catamaran Griffon was commissioned. It wasn't a pilot, it was a commercial sample. Victor, who will probably tell us about the next measures. It's one pilot project of this catamaran, and it's produced using composites, using polymers. We understand that something first in Russia is very difficult, it's very complicated. All the problems with designers, with engineers, with the requirements of shipbuilding industry, all of their stages have already been passed, and this story is already successful in transport sector. And of course, only the weight decrease. The weight efficiency allows to decrease the distance of run and to increase all the parameters, etc. I would not expand on transport, despite all its significance and positive story in Russia. Of course, the wind energy is our favorite topic. What's happening here at the moment? Everybody knows that it's not just significant by itself, it has a huge influence on the composite industry. I will reveal a secret. We started wind energy sector at the same time with the composites. 10 years ago, there was one requirement. We need to go towards that type of equipment which will provide us not only with demand of fiberglass, but also the carbon plastic. And this trend, of course, is was growing, and the only possible way to do that was to increase the length of a blade. Now we go to another dimensions. Where do they get this capacity growth? Of course, it's the carbon plastic, and it was made in Ulyanovsk. There is not only Aviastat plant, which we are proud of, especially to people who made them happen. And of course, the blade production is also very important. And we are working with the next stage. Next stage is, first of all, the carbon fiber longerons, transition to protrusion technologies. And of course, it's a huge challenge to meet this challenge, to implement all the plans nowadays, today. We are holding the most difficult debates and discussion in the government. I am mentioning it not by chance, because there will be a second wave of the wind energy. You colleagues believe that it provided us with demands for composites, and this wave will end at 2024. Everything is fine here. We understand everything that will take place there. Everything is clear. And 2025, 2035, it's strategic period. It's not only discussion, it's not only words. Everybody believes that it's important from the point of view of Paris Agreement, ecology, and other things. It's most important topic. There will be the second wave within the correct parameters, which means that Russia will have the huge growing demanding for the carbon fiber, other materials, composites. And if our opponents win, it means that it will never happen. Not just never happen, we will have to close all the things we built in the country in case our opponent wins. It's very dramatic situation. I know that Ministry of Industry and Trade is very positive about that, and Ministry of Energy as well. And I would like to tell about that, because the next 2 weeks will decide what will happen in the period from 2025 to 2035 in Russian energy, taking into account all the levels, all the requirements, and the key part of that is fiber plastics. And another thing, we always talk about carbon, about fiber. I'm not key expert in this sphere. I would like to speak about other things which has a very huge popularity in Russia. I would like to talk about basalt. We are leaders in the world. Maybe I'm wrong here. I can see everything that's happening with our company. Gabriel, I see the demand from the US to Saudi Arabia, and the supply of basalt and plastic materials. I see the necessity to build a plant on production of these materials. I believe that this area is very interesting, taking into account the heat isolation properties of these materials, and of course the cost efficiency. These are the factors which make basalt special and very significant for Russia, and Russia can be a leader in that. There are huge perspectives. If we talk about our further way, where we shall go, first of all, renewable energy, wind energy, and I'm confident that under Russian conditions is the key driver for composites, the most powerful. We are not just talking about ideology, about the ideas, but we're talking about demand of real plants. If Russia has wind energy, there will be high demand for fiber, carbon, and other materials. And I would not expand on it. I hope that we will find a solution. This was number one. Number two is that I ask you to cooperate. We cooperate with Rosatom in this sphere. Techs, as we know, specialists, including me, and our contribution. It's very important. At the same time, we are willing to take the next steps. I believe that we can set the tasks to have the huge operator who will integrate plastic, fiber, and basalt in fusion and pultrusion. And these will lead us to the idea of establishing of a global scale Russian operator. I believe there are all the preconditions for that. I know that there is a roadmap, but the more important is something that the export project that we have in October, the upgrade of all the national projects will finish. I don't know about the volumes, about the indicators and figures, but to my point of view, this is the key on establishing the large Russian global scale operator, integrating all the technical aspects which I mentioned. I believe it's possible. There are all the preconditions for that. There are partnership, but Victor, please support us from the point of view of national projects, and we will have an opportunity to provide something which was impossible. 10 years ago, it seemed impossible to have what we have today. It's number two. And number three, the last one, maybe it's arguable. I would like to share it with the experts. In addition to the classical kit of composite, I believe that another breakthrough topic is our favorite carbon pipes. Of course, the experience which Russia has. Axel company, which was the first unicorn in the material sector, which bridged this gap, and now its volume is about $1.5 billion. We see huge demand. 75 companies, global companies, work with us. I will not tell their names because it's not always allowed, but we see the scale of this demand, the scope. I'm talking about composite materials for basic structures, all types of plastic and thermoplastic, radical increasing of parameters up to the tires. And of course, the same is in energy sector, because the results which we have after the testing together with global leaders of breakthrough technologies in these materials for lithium batteries, it looks like that these pipes, composites are the unique materials which is capable to provide the breakthrough within the next 10 to 15 years. This is how it happened. The competitor, probably it will allow us to win with the competitors. It sounds very strange, but this is what we hear every day. Axial company has no competitors. The next competitors is at least 6 years behind us. We have 90% of the global market here. It's not like I'm urging you to do something. What is the most terrible thing in business? When a person comes and says, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. I'm not asking for any support. I'm just sharing with the experts about composite materials, not about classical fiberglass, but about nanotechnologies, which is also very interesting. That would be, thank you very much.
Представители отрасли электронная торговля. Вы, говорит, нам не помогайте, мы сами разовьемся.
we tend to have the same message from e-commerce. Don't help us, we will develop ourselves. Yes, this is the same situation in composers, but not with renewable energy. On wind energy program, you put an emphasis on carbon fiber, but blades are made from glass materials, and carbon fiber are not used in their pure uh, state, and the entire composite industry works. uh, the momentum that has been created in Russia in order to develop the entire composite industry thanks to wind energy program. And now the industry really much looking forward to seeing the prorogation of wind energy program by 2035. My next question goes to Andrei Klepich. And I'm asking you to answer not as a head economist of Web.rf, but as an expert. You recently became a head of a scientific committee and you became member of the Additive Technology Association in Russian. What are key opportunities in Russia to become a technological leaders? And what Russia shall be done in order to grow leaders in many cutting-edge industries and not to lag behind in the technology race? Thank you for your question. We have already some examples of success, and Mr. Chubais just told us the story about Rosnana bringing Axial to maturity. When we have someone ready to take key risks, and in terms of composite materials, we have this leader. It's Rosatom. Without Rosatom, all the steps that have been taken back then when I was member of the government were to no avail. Regardless of the support and financial support, the results were far from being the one we envisaged. It is important to have the leader, but the leader should be brought to the maturity and supported. Governmental support is an ambiguity. When the government puts some pressure on the industry and on the company, this is one thing. But when the government acts as a coach, the situation is completely different. One of the barriers is a tremendous gap between what is being said and what is being effectively done. You know KMTP on composites. The program has been discussed by the Council of the Russian Academy of Science back in autumn 2019. In 2020, around 9 billion rubles were to be granted from the government to the projects. But we haven't seen a single ruble from the government in the program. But this program is important not as a program per se, but it's a platform for cooperation between different institutes, Moscow State University, Mendeleev Institute, businesses, Yuhimtech, Pneumatech. This is the very first opportunity to bring together efforts from the government, the public, the scientists, the academician community, and the businesses. And I hope that this program will be adopted next year, and starting from the next year, we will see financial governmental support. And I would like to pay tribute to Rosatom. It's the only player spending money and providing support. We would have lost a lot if we were to wait for the governmental support. There are many questions about the Rosa Nana, and I don't want to list many projects that were unsuccessful, but Alabusha factory, for instance, is now under the auspices of Rosatom. New manufacturing will be launched. We have venture funds, Russian venture investments, Polyakov-Bortnik Foundation. In terms of money given to venture projects by creating another foundations or Skolkovo Foundation project or Polyakov Foundation, when we talk about 8-10 million rubles, it's a seed stage. It's a lab stage. But when we need to launch pilot production, prove the technology, scale the technology, we don't really have instruments, tools, or bodies to support that. And happily enough, we have at least one organization of that kind, Rosnana. And I know that lots is being said that we need to re-engineer the institutes of development. We need to do everything to protect this unique niche of Rosnana, to provide it with an opportunity to take risky large-scale projects in hand. This is what is happening between Nantech and Rosnana. And earlier this year, I heard about the creation of the fund to support composite materials development. And Galem was mentioned as one of the partners. Web Ventures was mentioned as one of the partners. But this fund, this foundation is yet to be created. But I find this idea to be very legit. Rosatom and private companies can come up with a purpose-based foundation to support new projects. And we need to take into account not only carbon fiber, but glass fiber and basalt. It's a certain obligation from development institutes and VEB to support the structures. Yes, taking partially the risks on their shoulders, but to support the part of piloting, what is usually not bankable, but necessary. And this is the mission of the state corporation, including financial state corporation, as a web is. Web supported and acted as a creditor of Aero Composite. The project was of high risk, but strategically important. When we talk about governmental mission to development institutes, one of their goals is to support technology-driven projects. It is very important that we see emerging the centers in Tula Valley, for instance. And the funding is more or less guaranteed. Moscow State University Tech Park has recently been launched, and there will be a center for advanced research of composite and cutting-edge materials. So the government shall not dictate. It shall mitigate business risks within priority dimensions when altogether between the government and the businesses. We understand that we have opportunities and some experience gathered. Ros Nana and Rosatom together. Oh, Roscosmos as well, because they use composites. And I hope it will take a more active part in this activity. Okay, from the market to market niche perspective, yes, wind energy is a major global trend. We see some tariff support, but from the dynamic point of view and future oriental point of view, the better niche are polymer pipes for oil and gas and housing and utilities. Volume-wise, it's more interesting, but we need to have some research advancements in that. Lukoil was mentioned, but we are on the edge of a breakthrough. This is my feeling, and we need to support and implement it. And an unusual niche, we can remember your mobile story. It was not successful, but it was initially designed to be completely made from composites. Maybe one day we will bring back this dossier from the drawer and study the opportunity to create fully composite cars. And we don't have in our document the definition of a technological reserve or stockpile. The road starts from the first step, and we have people who are making these steps, and the result can be very important. Thank you very much, and I would like to highlight three important points from your presentation. First, thank you very much for going hand in hand. And the case of a comprehensive scientific program, KNT, is very important, and altogether we will make it a reality. Second point, automotive, electrical vehicles, and natural gas vehicle is the nearest future, 10 years maybe. Your mobile example is very important and characterize one of the most advanced industry, automotive, in terms of composite materials. Together with Rosnano, we created not a foundation, but a JV. We coined Composite Invest, a company that is in charge of funding not only our in-house projects, but the overall palette of composite projects. And I invite all market participants, if you have this kind of composite projects, come to us. We have laboratories, we have people, and we can invest in advanced projects. Now you have this opportunity. My next question goes to Alexei Glavkov. Aurus limousine is well known in Russia. Alexei, I know that as a SME, you work on digitalization, digital development of new products, including composite materials and products made from composites. When you speak, you always mention political will as a factor of the development of new materials. What is the place of new materials in the global technological race? Thank you very much. My name is Alexey Borovkov. Indeed, I would like to thank the organizers for bringing me on board. And I will not speak about technological trends. I will speak about technological frontier because technological frontier has a stage and the pace of the development. And Mr. Chubais said that we are in trend, but we can rapidly find ourselves behind the modern development of technological frontiers. You talking about national break through technologies. And when we do a breakthrough, we need to increase the gap between us as a leader and those who are left behind because they want to catch us. And then we need to mutate our leadership in technology superiority. So the classical change are materials, technologies, constructions. And many times I mentioned that modern approach works vice versa. There is a market, there is a park, a product, a benchmark, a global leader, and then we talk what shall be done in order for the project to become better than, and then some characteristics, and these are requirements. We need to have a lot of requirements. They should be attached to key indicators, and then we will start thinking of digital twins, and then you can uh, uh, optimize technology, materials, and products, and you receive an optimum. Sometimes you don't need to
А они сделаны там, скажем, минус
set the
50 на
highest possible characteristics for a material. Sometimes we don't have to change thermal resistance of a material. Maybe we need to change the construction of the final project. Yes, Griffon, very good example. We developed the technology 10 years ago, and the main issue was legal, and we had to come up with the rules. And we need to change Lloyd DLB and working together with the Register and specialists from Prometei and Krylov Center. We had to come up with that. Using vacuum and fusion products, and we were in Guinness Book of Records, size-wise. Yomobil, uh, we were asked by Rasnana to do this project revision. The design was made by our colleagues from the US. And from what we do, from our position, we saw that people who were in charge of this project development were of low cost. Development approach highlighted this low cost approach. Uh, the owners of the project asked for many changes and so on and so forth, and then the project was abandoned. The creation of new technology, advanced technology is possible, but financially it doesn't exist. Development institutes don't pay account on that. And the first big stage is about specifications, design, requirements. Materials play a crucial role, but they depend on what we do, an aircraft, a vessel, or a car. And next stage is about production and maintenance, retrofitting, and then recycling. On the first stage, system engineering is taking its role. Unified model-based system engineering. Now, when we analyze subsystems or components and we go up, we talk about systems system and mega system. So we need to come up with a matrix of requirements and limitations, financial essentialist technologies, environmentally, people, and so on and so forth.
целевых показателей.
125,000 key indicators is the world record. Then it has to be implemented for limousine, for microvan,
Внедорожника и для
for
кабриолета.
SUV, and for cabrio, taking in account production limitations. You cannot come up with something that will not be, that no one will be able to manufacture. Tens of thousands of virtual tests shall be performed. And then in order to do only one real test, there are 7 types of optimizations: geography, logistics, talking about additive technologies, or optimal pose of the layers in composites. We're talking about high computing capacities. For instance, we talk about fans, yeah, or blades. How can we work with airflow unless we use the best available technologies? We will not be able to come up with the best available product, taking into limitation of economy technology. Victor from the Ministry of Commerce and Trade participated in the big meeting under the auspices of the Ministry of Commerce and Trade. The big program has been drafted amidst coronavirus in terms of the implementation of digital twins, diesel engine, for instance.
Двигатели не за месяцы калибруются, за дни или даже часы. И таких примеров
On the test table, we usually use only 20 parameters, but with the digital twin, we can use 200 or 2,000 parameters. So the development itself changed completely. Those who own digital twins technology own the world. If we want to be competitive under the sanctions, we need to remember our experience from China, where we work in aircraft construction and automotive industries. We were saying that you need to run faster than your competitors do, throwing mines around and bringing technologies and know-hows on board. Thank you very much, Oleg. I would like to quickly add that when we're talking about digital twins, we are talking not only about twins used while the production and development of items, but also when we come up with new materials. We who manufacture pan precursors and composite fiber have a mission to come up with digital twins of material development in order to abandon experimental and piloting approach in order to decrease the time and decrease the cost of the development, because the price of the composite is the limitation factor. And I would like to briefly answer the question received in the comment box. Why binding materials are not largely used or covered in Russia? But fiber, both basalt and carbon, are quite well developed, including glass fiber. But the entire fiber-based chains, the other
That's also
materials
an
that are
element which is a
used
part of complex scientific program which was mentioned
in
today. And the
the
Composite
line
Valley in the city of Tula, which was
are
also mentioned,
also high
is
on the agenda,
one of the
including
focus is low tonnage
binders.
chemistry, including the binders. As our colleague said in the beginning of the plenary session, the Center of Competences on Polymer Composite Materials is a industrial cluster. Composites Without Borders, established in Tatarstan, Kov and Saratov region in 2020, the cluster borders will include Tula and Ulyanovsk region. Anatoly Chubais was talking about the wind energy program within which Vestas company leader organized a manufacturing sites of blades in Ulyanovsk, 62 meters long, this production site. The blades are provided not only for national wind parks, but also were successfully exported. Serial production of the carbon composite wings of passenger aircraft MS-21 was also produced in Ulyanovsk. Sergei, under these complicated conditions, competition between the regions for investment for new high-tech projects, you achieve such success? And what are the new prospects, what are new potential projects on the territory of your region exist? Thank you very much, dear friends. First of all, thank you for the questions and thank you for the invitation to this very interesting platform. I believe that both Russian and foreign partners who work with our region will confirm that we have already gained reputation of basic region of the Russian Federation, which is producing new composite materials, industrial ideas and components made of these materials. It's something that I can say honestly and sincerely, looking into your eyes. Composite materials and technologies here are the foundation for the construction of the future economy and industry. I would once again announce aloud that today we are launching the largest industrial park for innovative composite material, and we are proud of becoming a member of the regional cluster. Composite material is our priority. It's special advantage of our cluster, which we are building at the moment. If you see my screen, if you see my presentation, you can see it. The park is being built on the territory of the Special Economic Zone, aviation and airport activities, which is the unique aircraft and airport zone acting on the territory of our region. I believe that in the nearest future, this platform will become an incubator for development of prospect companies. Of course, not only our company, but the cluster itself, including incubator of the high-tech. The most important component of the engine and the motor of our industry is aircraft engineering, automotive industry, and other industries. The super light and super strong composites are demanded in both airspace industry, which was already mentioned, and industry, shipbuilding industry, medicine industry, and transport infrastructure, and other spheres. I would like to draw your attention, dear colleagues, that production within the composite cluster corresponds to the highest requirements of Industry 4.0. You know that this allows to communicate to customers all over the globe very quickly, to attract new investors, to develop new areas of activities which are priority for our region. How it happens? Alexander, maybe I could demonstrate that by the example of Ulyanovsk wind energy sector. Many others. First of all, I would like to thank Anatoly Chubayev for partnership for science, because he explained us that composite technologies could make Ulyanovsk region attractive for foreign investors in the sphere of wind energy, that it can provide us with an opportunity to establish the manufacturing of the most complicated components made of composite materials, and it corresponds to the global best practices. And now everything came true. The region attracted the best suppliers. We established high-tech production, manufacturing. We managed to attract high-tech to the investment production. Maybe I recall in December 2000, 2018, on the related manufacturing sites, we launched the production of air composite plant. And at the neighboring territories, we established a joint production together with the Danish company. And this is manufacturing of blades again. Now, air composite platforms allows to produce the blades 65 meters long, which is very difficult. 1 month ago, in September, we are proud to visit this plant because the company shipped 100th part of the blades. And thanks to the components that we have, we believe that in 2021 we are ready to cover all the needs of Rosnano in Russia for the next 3 or 5 years. Together with the investors, national companies Transtus and Fontus, and the support of Rosnano company, we built our wind park. In the next 5 years, we are going to continue. We will build at least 5 wind parks. Generation of clean and cheap energy is not our only goal. I repeat once again, we form the cluster, which should include wind energy generation, localization of composite production, scientific and research and development aspects from the point of view of production of composite materials. That is why we believe that wind energy and composite technology, on the basis of these new technologies, becoming a point of technological growth. I would like to support Anatoly, everything related with wind energy. This very industry provides us with a significant growth in terms of composite manufacturing. We are looking forward for prolongation of the program of state support, trends of localization. For us and for many other regions of our country, it means localization of other components for the renewable energy. Today, we are actively involved in attracting investors. I would like to inform you that we made a decision and we start implementation within the localization of production of 4 large-scale projects in sphere of automotive components and aviation components, construction materials, composite materials in the sphere of wind energy. Today we signed projects with investment volume 2.3 billion rubles, which allows us to create not less than 1.5 thousand jobs. And we are working on at least a dozen of other projects. We are willing, we are ready to meet all the challenges related in terms of the composite production. Alexander, I would like to draw your attention that we also train experts, train our staff. We have our technical university with special chairs of wind energy technology, and Anatoly Chubay supported us on the basis of the Nano Center. There was another chair of wind energy complex. Since 2016, we have been training students on material study and technology of materials. We, together with university named after Bauman and St. Petersburg Polytechnical University, formed unique educational programs. This is not all. We are building additional educational center on the basis of the Nano Center together with our technical university and best company. Undoubtedly, all that will allow us to provide a unique innovation practices. Recently, before the pandemics, in the beginning of this year, we visited Germany met with our colleagues from Hamburg Technological University and made a decision to adopt their practice of training specialists on implementation, development and applying of composite materials who will be demanded by companies and enterprises, at least of our region, but if other partners and other companies are interested in territory of the cluster as a whole, Himprom Engineering Company in August 2020 made a decision together with us and together with Ulyanovsky State University to establish another educational center of composite materials. I'm proud that we are involved not only in this, but also we developed and implemented a unique regional program of implementation of introducing of composites in the sphere of transport and construction. Maybe you remember a couple of years there was a discussion in the State Duma and he took part in that. I was listening attentively and then I returned to my region. I said, let us expand the borders of our interests and we shall go using new materials to these very prospect industries. And I have a success story. And being here together with you, I can tell you that there are success stories. On the basis of our center transfer of technologies, we have deployed a number of companies involved in metal matrix composite materials. Using composites, we built unique one in Russia, bridge for transport, a car bridge. We are actively introducing composites in road construction, plants which produce automotive components. And the last, dear colleagues, I believe that we should think not only about the Russian market, but about export potential. Once again, I would like to thank everybody because with these blades, which I was proudly talking about, are sold not only to Russia, but also supplied to other countries, and we will continue this export. I believe that if we achieve the necessary level of development, we will compete on international level. Alexander, that will be great if in the summary it should be included in the minutes on this forum, the importance of the renewable energy, because it's a huge impetus, it's a huge motivation for our industry. Sorry for being so long. I was so happy to see all of you, and I believe that it was great to share all my emotions with you. Sergey, thank you very much. And the plenary session started with global trends, technological trends. Obviously, all the real projects in science, industrial manufacturing, they are to a certain extent are located in regions. Why we invited Sergey today? Because it's one of the few regions of Russia which is developing all the aspects of composite materials, both manufacturing and application of these materials. Sergey, I confirm that Engineering Educational Center will be built. The first center on training composite technologies was opened at the end of 2019 in Kazan, and we are going to establish a net of such educational institutions to increase the number of high-skilled experts. We will have scientists, designers, and engineers who will create new materials and professionally use them in production of composite products. Carbon composites have unique properties. They are lighter than steel 5 times, stronger 3 times. They have high corrosion resistance and to aggressive substances. They last for 100 years and more. And of course, one of the impediments of fast accelerated development of composites is high price. New liners, Boeing and Airbus, are 50% made of composite materials. New Russian liners MS-21 consists of composites by 30%. The air companies take into account the life cycle. Sergey Vladimirovich, my next question is to you. What do you think, how the market will look in the future and how the new materials will look, taking into account the life cycle? commodities or services, support, supplies, or the sales, increasing of weight of the liner or increasing of its fuel efficiency. Thank you very much to the organizers for invitation of my company and me as an expert. Especially pleased to see friends and colleagues Anatoly Chubais, Andrei, governors, Mr. Rakhmanov. My best regards to you. It's a difficult time. I would speak on trends on the market, of course, on airspace industry. And of course, I have some ideas where Russia has an opportunity to achieve this breakthrough and to lead some technological and business areas. Let us remember the history of use of composites in civil aviation. In 1930s, civil aviation is developing very quickly. Only in 1990s, the massive application of composite materials in civil aviation started. Of course, the military and airspace applications were well known, but with volumes, big business is related with civil aviation. About 50% of composite materials on Boeing 777, which was in 1997. In 2002, Boeing designed the third composite aircraft, Greenliner, which was made taking into account all the difficulties, but at the end of the last decade, it was produced. Before the pandemic, we produced 14 aircrafts a month. And you know that new aircraft, wide bodies, Airbus A350 is made of titanium and composites, which is 50% of the total amount of the composites. What's happening in general in the market? And what are the consequences of the pandemic? Probably I'm a little bit cynical, but for the market volume, including for composite materials, the pandemic was very positive. Of course, the traffic goes down significantly. Air companies survive. The manufacturers decreased their production volumes by 2 times. This crisis will last for another 3 or 4 years, and in 3 or 4 years there will be recovery, and the companies will have a growth of 3-4%, which means that every couple of years the number of airplanes will double. The world will win over this pandemic. Such tragedies take place not often, but the world will go back to this growth which is forecasted, and in 20 years there will be 44,000 new airplanes in the world. What pandemic did? Pandemic led to the fact that all airplanes made of steel, made of aluminum, they are not operated anymore. Who could think that British Airways or Lufthansa start flying Boeing 747? Who could imagine that only in 18 years after the production was launched, the largest airplane in the history, A380, production will be stopped, is discontinued. These are the planes produced of aluminum, and the places which are vacant for the growth in air companies will be filled with the composite titanium airplanes. I suppose that by the end of the decade, Boeing and aircraft will produce a narrow-bodied composite airplane. Our industry demonstrated that in the narrow-bodied airplane segment, the Boeing produces 72 meters wing. Anatoly and you and Mr. Governor were talking about 65 meters of the blade of the wind energy, and we produce the 72-meter wing, the largest plant of the composite production is the wind production for the Boeing 72 meters. Once again, it's not a competition with energy sector. You covered a very important issue. trends which will both stimulate, which will stimulate both industries. These trends are related with ecology, with environment. Wind energy is an alternative to ecologically unfriendly types of energy. 25% of fuel can be saved if using composite materials. It was the key impetus for implementation of composite materials into wide-bodied aircrafts. And today we are going to do that in narrow-bodied aircrafts as well. We will see a huge breakthrough, a huge leap in consumption of composites in the next 10-15 years. Narrow-bodied airplanes will be produced by the end of this decade. 75% of 44,000 new airplanes could be, I'm telling you as an expert, could be made the same way produced of composite and titanium. The market will dictate, will provide for automation, new technology, quality check, digitalization in the composite industry, and we will witness that. The same thing happened with aluminium. The cost decrease, including for the most complicated materials. As Anatoly said, it will have the reverse conversible effect for both car producing and shipbuilding and automotive production.
I would like to highlight where a breakthrough in Russia can happen, and I'm talking about as an expert. The future is set not for titanium components or composite components, because in titanium, thanks to the USSR heritage, thanks to support of Rosnano, thanks for the support of Putin, Russia is the leading supplier for titanium components globally. More than half of titanium elements for both Boeing and Airbus are manufactured in the Euros. We have two JVs there. But my guess is the future is reserved for composite titanium alloys, quote unquote. It's like if we could breed a composite valley with a titanium valley, bringing together momentums created by two governors. As we are leaders in titanium parts, we can be leaders in titanium composite parts. Titanium has no replacement. Using composites on the aircraft, titanium is the only element with similar corrosive parameters with the composite, and the only element with the same thermal expansion characteristics. Russia is the leader in terms of new alloys development, new mechanical processing techniques development. These are two modern plants of ours. And imagine same manufacturing sites can be constructed for composite alloys. In 10 years, every month, 120 small-bodied airplanes will be manufactured. Yes, Russian market is large, but not large enough to back the importance of investments. The large use of composite materials will force us to solve composite recycling issues, and I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Chubais, and unfortunately Mr. Likhachov disconnected from the call. There is another field where Russia can be the leader, and I'm talking about black uh, debris recycling, graphite recycling. If you're in public company on an American in America, it's not enough to show good developments. You have to be leaders in sustainability. Sustainability means trash recycling and corporate social responsibility for the future of the world. Rasnana and Rosatom together can come up with technologies to recycle some large amounts of black garbage or debris. Russia has great opportunity in construction of large composite constructions, 62 meter blade and 72 meter wing for Boeing 777. They are almost of the same size. And we have good scientific heritage to become leaders in recycling. Sergey, thank you very much. Talking about the last subject you mentioned, recycling of composites and carbon composites. Uh, is indeed one of the most future-oriented subjects in Russia and globally. In Russia, we kicked off already our project, and we think that we will not lag behind. We will be one of the leaders. I would like to ask one question, if possible. Yes, please, Mr. Chubais. Very interesting presentation to my mind. Mr. Kravchenko was talking about narrow-bodied aircraft future. It's a revolutionary story in terms of future demands. Let's go on the further level, on one level up. You said that CAGR will be 4% in a long-term perspective. As compared to 20 to 30 years ago, it's a bit less, or am I wrong? These figures have been double-checked. They are very close to what the industry has shown over the last 20 to 25 years. Yes, and we included in this model 10 to 15 annual decrease due to pandemic. If we take a look at the last 10 years, by 2019, all economists had been surprised. Uh, the market was ready for the demand increase between 10 years annual growth over 10 last years became 5.6% in 2020. Aircrafts are fueled by middle income families. And after the pandemic, here in Russia and in Asia, we can say that the civil aviation will pass through very difficult 24 months, and these 44,000 new airplanes for the next 20 years, 75% of them are now bodied, are the reality. Airbus and Russian aircraft manufacturers will think about narrow-bodied aircraft. Yes, it's difficult to launch a MC-21, but the direction is quite accurately showed. We didn't think that we will see a narrow-bodied airplane with a composite wing, but MC did it. taken into account production costs decrease thanks to automatization, taking into account the implementation of additive technologies. The solutions have yet to be taken by Boeing or Airbus, but from those 44,000, 32,000 starting from 2025, the airplanes will be made from titanium and composite. From the titanium point of view, we are ready here in Russia. From the composite point of view, we are not ready. The five leaders don't manufacture enough composites. Someone has to take the leading role in composites. We have a good advancement in titanium, thanks to Avisma, USSR, and others. Someone has to do that in composites. I'm sorry, I'm abusing the mic in some sort, but the topic is of highly importance. And I resume, regardless of the fact that air construction industry is decreasing from 10% to 4%, since it's highly probable that narrow-bodied planes will be manufactured from composites or titanium and composites, with you think that composites will be in high demand. Yes, this is my position as as an expert. Figures are produced by Boeing. When I used to be uh, Dr. S. Science in composite materials. This is my perception. Yes, it is a challenge and it's a huge opportunity. You talked quite in details in this combination between metal and composites, and I would like to give the floor to Alexei Rachmanov. Steel market volume is around $1 trillion, 26 billions for carbon composites only. Steel market is growing 2% annually, composites 4% annually, carbon composites 11% annually. And your presentation will be a bridge to the second panel discussion with the participation of manufacturers of planes, cars, wind turbines, and so on and so forth. What is the place of metals and composites in the future material balance? Thank you, Alexander. Thank you very much, uh, Mr. Kravchenko. Hello. I remember this view from your office windows where we shift the mindset of my shipyard's directors' brains. It's particularly great to speak right after you because roughly 2 months ago, when I was one of the guests of Knopo, I thought to myself that shipbuildings stopped using riveting 50 years ago or something like that. This is why composites are highly interesting for our industry as well. It's a common knowledge among us that the largest yacht in the world has been constructed by the Russian investor. The masts are made from carbon, and then it can be plied in order to pass under the bridge of Bosphor. And the sails are self-governed. They adapt their position according to the wind. This system allows us to open the new era in shipbuilding, where zero emissions mission can be achieved using composites. Yes, composites are not largely used in shipbuilding, but every ship manufacturer works on making their ships lighter. Parts of superstructure or covers of the traps in gas carriers. This trend is present in the civil shipbuilding. The same story is in Navy construction. Not only the hull, some elements of the hull, but the entire superstructure is made from composites. Two examples, Zumwalt from the US and Visby from Sweden, demonstrated quite a successful development of these technological trends. What is happening in Russia? We have composites here for more than 50 years. The very first trawler from fiberglass has been constructed in Russia more than 40 years ago. We constructed different others ship buildings. Now the construction is on another technological level, starting from Corvette 2380. Griffon was mentioned today. Mr. Chubais said that we were able to demonstrate this opportunity, and now this catamaran is navigating between Petergov and the Bros Horseman, and sometimes it she navigates even faster than conventional ships. We learned how to manufacture from composites the different ponton bridges, and we do that non-jeopardizing any reliability. It can be used primarily by military. Some traditional technologies for the construction of Navy boat superstructures of basic walls and multi-layer composite materials and cellular materials. They resist the heat, the deformation, the cutting, and they are light. Alongside with that, their characteristics in terms of noise canceling and vibration canceling are important, and they are not really well detectable by radar systems. Using computer modeling, we can accurately define the place to cut. We can come up with a very accurate maps of cutting. And regardless of this infusing method, we were almost listed in the Guinness record book because we use diffusion technology for the hull as long as 53 meters and as high as 8 meters. It's very, very large thing to us. We can manufacture that, but we start facing some key challenges that lay in the field of right design of the hull using composite materials. The calculations are completely different. You need to take into account different resilience characteristics. And there are some drawbacks in terms of engineering qualifications. We need new personnel on every shipyard using composite materials. Now, we use a Griffon hull to manufacture Pioneer M for the University of Sebastopol. It's a test vessel to test autonomous navigation, the use of solar energy, and so on and so forth. And we face this situation when the hull from Composites is actually heavier, taking into account all resistant constraints than the one built from conventional materials. We need R&D support. What are the solutions? We live in the Russian ruble zone, and existing approaches to production localization bring us to the parity situation in the Eurozone. But for Pioneer M, the hull was much more expensive than the hull of Griffon that has been constructed 6 years ago. Another issue is all about test and experiment equipment. In order to convince the register that our construction resists the fire, we had to construct a piece of the superstructure and then burn it in the reality. This is quite a nice outcome of the great digital revolution. If we had the set of practical examples, we could have done it quicker, we could have done it simpler. But this is the example of a trawler that has been produced 100% from composite materials, and it's a best seller on the international market among the countries that purchase these Navy equipment from us. We came up with some pilot fixtures. These are the bolts that can be used on composite trawler. The traditional issue of corrosion is there, but the price of one bolt made from graphite and basalt is 5 to 6 times lower as compared to the bolt manufactured from a conventional low magnetic steel. We work with an institute of the Russian Academy of Science, and they said that we opened the door towards new opportunities of using composition materials as compared to the day before. But unfortunately, Russia is heavily lagging behind from our international counterparts in terms of the volume of the adoption of composites in the production. And at the end of my presentation, I would like to show a couple of the slides that illustrates my idea. Coming back to the cost. The cost is the major impediment right now. Even the aluminium hull or body of a catamaran will be 2 to 3 times less expensive, cheaper, as compared to 3-layer carbon tissue. In terms of rubles, the cost is one of the impediments. On the next slide, you can see real figures that we received with our colleagues from the Institute of Molecular Studies. as compared with steel U3, the decrease of the price of an article made from a item made from composites is quite impressive. On that slide, you can see our vision of items available in Russia and non-available in Russia. We are talking about basic chemical elements that should be present in Russia in order to expand dramatically the use of composites. For us, we came up with several centers of composites use development. Srednye plant in St. Petersburg that works closely with the plants from Sebastopol, and our key development and research bureau, ALMAS, is located also in St. Petersburg. I think that we will expand the use of composites in naval construction. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. You mentioned a very important topic of the development of professional personnel and education. Unfortunately, uh, due to the time constraint, I will give only a couple of minutes to Alexander Madzuka, Chancellor of Mendeleev University of Chemical Technology. He will be a moderator of our third panel discussion at 1600 hours. Just give us a quick overview, please.
Коллеги, доброго дня. Я, конечно,
Good
искренне...
afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I would sincerely thank the organizers for an invitation. It's a very important event. A couple of words about university and what we will talk about at 4 o'clock. Our university is leading in chemical technology, development of materials for composite production, and of course we are involved in education. First of all, this year our university will turn 100 years, and polymeric science is 100 years this year as well, and our today's event is very symbolic and very important in this 100th anniversary. The composite industry is developing very quickly, and our task is to increase the market, taking into account all the challenges and problems. And of course, everything starts with chemistry. We were mentioning that there are problems with components, low tonnage chemistry. Here, our university implements technological solutions and offers our companies. We were talking about the linking, the linkages, the key component of epoxy resins, for example, and this component was developed by our university recently. Means of production, it's difficult to talk about that without that, and of course, staff, high qualified personnel, how to overcome these barriers, these impediments without slowing down the process of development, but to have technological breakthrough. We have our own vision. We shall consider innovation, business, science, and education as a unified system. Education itself as a platform for development. Of course, our young scientists, technologists, innovators will create new technologies and new materials. It's easy to say, but how to do that? As a university, we understand that we need to find such a way. It's very important for our colleagues from other educational institutions. We need to transform the educational system. We need to provide the bridge between university and business. And here, university can become a talent incubator for business on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's an incubator of technologies. We need to implement individual educational trajectories. We will talk about that within our panel discussion. We need to provide the students with opportunity to choose. Individual educational trajectories should also include the employer. We need joint programs with business where employer should be a tutor, a mentor, like a trainer who is playing together with the students. We provide such programs together with Sibur, Unikim, Tech, and other companies and enterprises. And in the next year, we will have the full chain. We license the master's degree and other degrees. The second issue is technology. A very good tool of technology development is engineering centers. Today we are at the final stage of discussion together with UMATEX of establishing an engineering center. This is the task covering a number of subjects. Of course, it will be the implementation of technologies of production of component bases, since we are talking that our roadmap includes new materials, a new block, which is the responsibility of our university. We shall focus on that. It's a task of equipment, designing new equipment made of composites. I believe that the future of chemical technology, this trend is very important. Now we are almost presented by fiber and glass. In the future, we will have equipment made from polymeric composite materials. And of course, the training of personnel. And to resume, I would like to invite you all to visit our panel discussion, Startup Education and Science Basis of Russian Composite Markets. Thank you very much, Alexander. And briefly summarizing our plenary session, I would like to emphasize the following aspects, talking about global trends. First of all, new technological order is impossible without new materials, including composite materials. Place and role of metals and polymers are equally important, and the future includes the combined, mixed use of composites and metals, digital developments of new materials. Speaking about Russian market, wind energy program, gas turbine transportation, complex scientific and R&D program will contribute to our composite industry to make a breakthrough by 2030. Thanks, dear speakers. I believe that the panel was very interesting and very fruitful. I wish all of you a very interesting, fruitful day. Thank you.